if a guest enters a zip code, if they're driving past and they have their GPS turned on, they can get a notification. So there's different things that we can do, and it's really cool to meet the franchisees where they're at. A lot of people in my line of business get into this specific franchising opportunity because of their love for the brand itself. And I think that helps because when you love what you do, you're so much more passionate about it. It seems like it's going to be more fun, of course. And the challenges you come across are exciting versus daunting. You're like, okay, this is a new challenge. This is something I haven't seen before, but I'm really excited to figure this out versus I have no clue. This is overwhelming and I don't want to do it anymore. What's great about working for a larger brand is there's a national voice that's already out there and it making waves and doing what it needs to do for marketing purposes.
What's up, guys? This is While Supplies Last, the marketing podcast where we talk about all things business and marketing. I'm Gabby, and I'm the marketing manager for Peachtree Rose Marketing.
And I'm Candace. I'm the project manager for Peachtree Rose Marketing.
And here we have Gabrielle Mgeni.
Mgeni. You were close.
Okay.
Good job.
Yes. Here we have Gabrielle Mgeni. She's one of the franchise marketing experts for Whataburger.
And also is a brand strategist and coach.
Yes. So excited to be here.
Yeah, we're glad to have you. We're excited to get into the subject.
Me too. Let's do it.
Yes. So can you explain a little bit for our listeners and watchers out there what franchise marketing is?
Yeah, absolutely. So it can be a few different things, but I think the best way to describe it is we are a strategist and a liaison for the franchise community and our franchise partners. And we help them to build a strategy and tactics to best promote their business in their markets.
Okay.
Nice. So can you tell us a little bit more about what your role is, like what you do as far as like the franchise marketing goes?
Yeah, absolutely. So like I said, I describe myself as a liaison because the franchisees are their own businesses. And so a lot of them have a marketing person, a marketing team, and then I am just their tie to the corporate office, to the bigger picture. I am there to make sure that they are aligned with what the corporate office is looking to do and to make sure that they are on track with what the initiatives are. Because, of course, we want them to have their own voice and their own goals. Every business is different, but we want to make sure that they stay kind of within the coloring lines, so to speak, when they're going out to execute these strategies and different goals, to meet the different goals.
Yeah. Nice.
What I love is every day is different.
Mm-hmm.
Every day is something different, and it's a new challenge, and it's a new problem to solve.
Nice. Yeah, I bet there's a lot of different things that go into it, especially since you're dealing with, even though I guess the branding is pretty similar or the same for every franchisee is different.
Yes. So like I said, every franchise is their own business and they operate as their own business. And so they have different setups and different ways that they like to operate within their own business. So the branding is the same, yes, because it is a larger brand that they are representing. But they're in different communities and those communities have different needs. And so how they go about meeting their customers is going to be different. Whether they are in a major city like a Houston or a Dallas, they're going to operate differently than somebody out in the middle of nowhere. I don't know, nowhere town, but but you know what I'm trying to say. It's a nowhere town, and they have more interaction with the customer, with the guests, and it's more of a one-on-one versus a 1 to 1,000.
Mm-hmm. Is it along the lines of you guys offer suggestions to them based off of, their current marketing strategies as well, to get them like boosted to where the national brand would want them to be? Or do you guys have like a completely separate, like we just let them rock as long as they're meeting, they're hitting these marks or meeting these criterias?
Yeah. So What's great about working for a larger brand is there's a national voice that's already out there and it making waves and doing what it needs to do for marketing purposes. We do let them kind of do their own thing, but of course we want them to stay within the coloring lines, as I said. Based on what the goals are for the individual franchise group, we'll deploy different tactics. So if they're in a community with a lot of schools, we have different levers that we can pull to help them go meet the school, go meet the officials and the principal, and how to find sponsorship opportunities with them versus, say, you are looking to just boost overall breakfast sales. Okay, maybe we can do that with just doing like a social media ad, and we'll target your zip codes. We try to stick to marketing to a 3 to 5 mile radius. So if a restaurant is in the middle of nowhere, it's going to be hard because that 3 to 5 mile radius may not have a lot of people, but we do have different levers, like I said, where we can pull a social media ad. We can do targeting on digital. So if a guest enters a zip code, if they're driving past and they have their GPS turned on, they can get a notification. So there's different things that we can do, and it's really cool to meet the franchisees where they're at and to create strategies with them.
Awesome, because I know, I'm sure, like you said, some places are in smaller areas, so their strategies have to be based off of, the localization. So whereas one place might be doing a lot more, maybe some print, another place might be doing, different things, like you said, outreach at schools and stuff like that. So it's really awesome to find out and learn about. Do you find that a lot of the people that become franchisees because they are wanting to start a business and wanting that boost of marketing help, something that's already established and already has a little bit of marketing to it?
I think a lot of people get into franchising opportunities because it's already an established brand. There's already a proven track record of success. And so there's not this build-up period of, I have to go and educate every single person on what this brand is and what I'm doing. No, if you see a restaurant pop up in your neighborhood and you've seen it before, you're going to probably go check it out. If you've heard of it, if you've seen a social media ad, if you have any sort of knowledge of them, you're going to be interested versus a mom and pop where you have no clue what they're doing, what they're selling, what kind of service to expect. You're going in really just blindly. And so I think people get into franchising because I won't say it's a guaranteed success because nothing's guaranteed, but it's highly likely to be successful. And if you are struggling, then you do have the backing and support of a larger brand and deeper pockets just to put it bluntly. there's backing behind you. So you're not going to fail, easily.
Yeah.
I'm not a franchisee, but that is my experience. People get into it because it's guaranteed. It's nearly guaranteed. Mm-hmm. And a lot of people in my line of business get into this specific franchising opportunity because of their love for the brand itself. And I think that helps because when you love what you do, you're so much more passionate about it. It seems like it's going to be more fun, of course. And the challenges you come across are exciting versus daunting. You're like, okay, this is a new challenge. This is something I haven't seen before, but I'm really excited to figure this out versus I have no clue. This is overwhelming and I don't want to do it anymore. If you love the brand, that helps a ton.
Yes. So what would you say is the biggest lesson that you've brought from working with a major brand?
Having systems for everything. There needs to be a system, a to-do list for every single thing, no matter how small, and it needs to be written down somewhere. Because ultimately, as a franchise group, you want to take what the larger brand has done and be able to just duplicate it, copy paste. But you can't do that if it hasn't been tracked and written down and really set in stone. So I've learned that everything I do can't live in my head because I think when you are a small business owner, or you're a solo business owner and you're the business, a lot of things end up just living up in your brain, and then you forget to write it down. And if something happens and you want to hire an employee or you want to hire an assistant and you want to expand, you have nothing to show anybody else. So having everything written down and everything documented and a process of how to do the simplest things will work wonders and save you so much stress and time.
So I know you're saying that they need to have like systems and things in place. So my next question was actually going to be like, how do they keep that brand consistency but also have their local flavor? And I have a feeling you're going to say like brand guidelines, and having brand guideline like physically in place.
Absolutely. I think you just said it right there. I hate to say that it's really that simple. You have to have brand guidelines and you have to stick to them. It's okay to, and when I say brand guidelines, that is everything from your logo, the colors, your tagline, all the way down to your customer experience. It's what your customers feel when they interact with you. And so it might seem like overkill, but you do need to stick to it, because you don't want somebody to walk into one location in Dallas and then come here to San Antonio and have a completely different experience. And it just creates confusion. And a confused mind does not buy. A confused mind does not stick with you. They are not along for the ride. They will go find somebody else. They will go find something else to fit their needs. But they will keep coming back if they know that they can rely on you and they can trust you. And so that consistency is where that builds trust.
Kind of reminds me of, excuse me, there's like a particular chain where whenever you say thank you, like in the drive-thru, they say my pleasure. And it's known across the country, my pleasure, my pleasure.
Exactly.
I think it should be noted that these places, they're large chains, so obviously they have, the resources, and they've built these systems in place so that they can have an overall, like, unified customer experience. But for small businesses, how important it is to have these things written out and laid out, so that not only like anyone you bring on the team also has it, but whenever you're, collaborating with another organization or a creative, that they also like have access to like your brand colors, what your logo, and it also comes down to how your logo should be presented. Like, what backgrounds are you allowed to put it on? How big should it be? Where is the placement on your website? Things like this, like all of those things are things that should be in your brand guideline. I know if you're, you coach brands on these things, can you speak a little bit more for small businesses or even like entrepreneurs about how they create the system?
Yeah, absolutely. So because I am a solo business owner, it's just me, but I still have my brand guidelines written out. And I'm going to tell you, it's not, you don't need to overcomplicate it. It's not that hard. So my brand guidelines, I have the logo and I tell you what font it is. I tell you how I can combine. And so not to get into too many specifics, but as a branding strategist, your logo can be more than one font. And So there's like a main font, and then there's a secondary font, and then there's a font that I used for text if I'm going to write something out long form. And I just have those listed out with a sample of what the text looks like. And then I have a color palette, and these are the colors that I like to use. And it has a little square with a screenshot of what that color looks like with the color code. And I'm all about doing things as easily and, I'm going to be honest, as cheaply as possible, because we know owning a business is not cheap and it comes with a lot of expenses. So finding those free resources that are out there, and I'm not plugging this, but Canva is your best friend when it comes to branding, because it tells you. You can put the mouse over, the color, and it tells you the color code. Okay, well, now I can go copy that and put it in my little Google Drive folder and save it. And that's all you have to do. It is a Word document. Mine's maybe one page right now because I don't have a large brand. I don't have a lot of different things to think about yet, but it's the start, so that if I have somebody who I need to hire to do social media for me, I can give them this document. And they may still have questions, of course, but it's a starting point. And I think that's what you have to look at it as. This is a starting point. When you're a small business, you will run into questions you didn't know you needed to ask. But as you find those questions and you answer them, write them down. Don't overcomplicate it. Just write it down. And then you can share it when it's needed.
What's one branding move that you would say a business needs right before they think about scaling or having more than one business?
Branding guidelines? No. No, but seriously, you need brand guidelines. You need to know who you are. You do not want to go and give somebody the opportunity to replicate your business model and then be shaken and stirred if they try to change something. You have to say, no, this is who we are, and that's that. So this is the experience I expect customers to have. I expect every person who walks in this door to be told hi and with a smile. And when they leave, you can say, my pleasure. But you need to be solid. You need to be 10 toes down, sure of who you are, what you are offering, what is the benefit to the customer, and how the customer needs to feel when they leave. So down to the nitty-gritty of that experience needs to be laid out. You need to be sure of who you are.
And I think also part of it too, having that stuff in place, getting things like copywritten, trademarked, so that way, they can't change any of the stuff.
Yes, you do. Yes, I should also throw that out there. You do need to have it copywritten, trademarked. You need to have your business systems, so to speak, in place. So your logo needs to be solidified and it needs to be trademarked. And your tagline, trademarked. And yeah, I would say you need to have everything secured so that it cannot be taken from you as well.
Yes.
Because we know somebody somewhere out there
And you can only
is plotting. They're plotting.
You can only be in one place at a time. So if you're having someone else running another location for you, you should definitely have those systems in place to make sure they're not doing anything other than what the original business has in place.
Yeah, absolutely. Making sure that you're legally covered really should be the first step when setting up the business in general as a whole. So if we need to just cover that, we need to go back to step 1, 2, or 3. Because before you think about franchising, really this needs to be a thought when you set the business up. Because it will cover you legally if you get things trademarked and copywritten beforehand. So if you have all of that done initially, when you go to franchise, it shouldn't be a problem. Now, you will get into more complexities when you have franchisees that may want to use your name in their business name, because a lot of franchisees might have a parent company, a larger overall brand, and then underneath it they have different business ventures, and those different ventures may have different names. So just making sure that you have guidelines on how your name can be used, and knowing that they're not doing business as you. This is, Coats R Us. Okay, well, I want to be Coats R Us Atlanta. Okay, well, we can do that if it's allowed in the guidelines. So just knowing those little nuances will also help.
Okay, nice. So how do you explain the deeper role that having a solid brand strategy plays in making the business profitable?
Okay, so I always try to make things as simple as possible, because I feel like if you can't explain it to a 5-year-old, you shouldn't be doing it. The best way I can explain having a solid brand strategy and how that plays into the overall picture is, you're not going on a road trip without a map. I don't care if that map's on your phone, but you have a map and you know how to get from point A to point B. You're not going to build a business without a brand strategy, because that's like saying, I want to make $1 million, but having no real plan of how to do that. You want to grow sales. So for example, if you want to grow sales, you would need to figure out tactics or steps to take to grow those sales. That's all really brand strategy is. It's just getting from step 1 to step 2 and step 3 and so on and so forth. And by, as you go and meet those steps, you should be getting closer to your goal. So without a brand strategy, you're just out here floating, out here wading in the water, hoping for the best, going in blind, and I don't recommend it. I really don't, because if you can't tell people who you are and what you do and, what the benefit is to them, they're not going to buy from you. And that's part of what a brand strategy is too. So it's all one thing to me. I don't know. It's so hard. But you want a plan and a map, and that's what a strategy is.
It's pretty much full circle.
Yeah.
It all comes back to the same thing.
It does. And I feel like I'm a broken record sometimes, because I just feel like I'm repeating myself, saying the same thing, but it really is it comes back together.
Sometimes you kind of just have to repeat it until they
No, that's yeah.
Honestly,
I do find myself repeating myself quite often, because people don't necessarily understand the importance until you do break it down. Well, if you want to grow sales, how are you doing that? Well, I don't know. Well, let's build a plan. Because it's not just going to you can't just wish it to happen. Yeah. You can't just say, I wish to grow sales by 10%. Okay. Where are these customers coming from? What's drawing them in? What's enticing them to spend more money or to come more often? Or, if you want to get new customers, what's going to bring them in if they haven't come in already? Okay, well, then let's break it down more. And you just keep going and going until you get to the very basics of what can I do on a personal level to get one step closer to accomplishing that first point in the map, or first check mark.
What is the process for working with the franchisees to understand their target audience, their local target audience? So obviously the national brand has its own, thing going on, but locally, how are the individual franchisees discovering their target audience and the direction they should be going?
So the national target audience is sort of the jump start point. That's what we advise them to go with initially when they're going into the market, because you do have to give yourself time to settle in and find your groove in your community. But that national brand target audience is your starting point. So say your target audience nationally is men 35 to 45 years old. That's just we'll go basic. Okay. Well, in my community, there's not that many of them. What do I do? Okay. You want to go into where are people hanging out that are similar brands? Because you want to find kind of your level set if you don't have that same grouping. But McDonald's is very similar to Burger King. I'm sure everybody's familiar. If you don't have McDonald's but you have Burger King, what are they doing? Who's going into their restaurant? And we encourage our franchisees to get out in the market. And it might sound a little weird and it might sound a little creepy, because you're going to go sit at, what might be your future competitor, and you're just going to watch. And you're watching. And you're driving around your neighborhoods, and you're looking to see what businesses are there. And that's how they kind of find their people. We tell them to get out into the market, and we tell them, okay, drive in one direction for 3 miles and work your way back. Okay, now go a different direction, 3 miles. Work your way back. What did you see? Pay attention to the people, because we have reporting that we can pull, but a computer or statistics only tell you so much. And so a lot of it is we need them to get out and to be active and to see people and to put your eyes on them. And what are you noticing? And that's not just noticing the businesses, noticing the schools, it's noticing the advertising you're seeing, because those businesses are attracting something. And you just kind of have to then reverse engineer it as well from that standpoint. Mm-hmm. But a lot of it is getting out and getting into the community, and it's putting eyes on people, and it's seeing the schools and the parents, and then going into your supposed competition and sitting there and kind of doing some people watching and some searches, and again, being a little weird, but it's the most accurate and best way to learn who your target audience is.
What about in areas of growth? Like you said, there may be places where it's in a really small town, or the town is starting to grow, or areas of the town are starting to grow. Do they have more of the advantage of we're the first one in town, or the first one over here, and they kind of establish that audience?
To an extent, yes, because I work for a larger brand. Even outside of Texas, as we grow into new states, there are people who are familiar with us. And so I remember we went into the Georgia market for the first time. A lot of people from Texas moved to Georgia, or they've been to Texas, or they have family who's been to Texas. And so there's an automatic level of excitement, and you're going to absolutely get that rush of, oh my gosh, we're so glad you're here. This is the best thing ever. But that's also a lot of pressure, because people have such high expectations of you. And if you mess it up, you're messing it up for everybody who comes after you.
I think, and that's interesting, because we have seen that shift. Mm-hmm. I know they're starting to move to other regions, and a lot of other regional, favorites are starting to come this way towards us. And I'm like, that's so interesting. There's a Chicago hot dog like chain that's coming now. My family's very excited about it because they're from Chicago. So we are like, we know. And there was one built in Katy. We went, and when I talked to them, I'm not sure if they understood like the cultural significance for us, but it was like, it felt like some of the nuances of the original, branding or like the feel of the restaurant, it wasn't necessarily the same. And I know they're bringing it a little bit closer to here too. So it's very interesting to see like how regional chains coming to a different market, how successful they will be. Like, obviously it's going to be great when you first open because it's, the new thing, but how do you maintain that level of excitement through marketing when, other stuff starts to pop up around you too? Like if you're in an area that's being developed, there are a lot of other businesses and stuff are coming up. So,
no, we definitely see that happen. And I think the key to maintaining the excitement or to get that level of excitement is education. So when you're a regionally based brand and you're growing and expanding, you don't want to focus on kind of the regionality of it all because people are like, well, you're just, in this state or you're just in that state. And you want to focus on what makes you different, what makes you better than your competitor. Well, we're open 24 hours a day. You got the 3 a.m. hunger strike? Come on in. They're not open. Our food's better. Our food's bigger. Finding the things that make you stand out and that makes a new customer want to come in and try. Well, I've heard that you are bigger and better. Okay, let me show you that we're bigger and better. And again, that's when that brand experience, that customer experience really comes into play. Because if it's as good and the same as it is at your home location, as it is at this new franchise location, then you're going to obviously get people to come back because it's just so amazing. But you definitely have to focus on the education, standing out from competition, letting people know what makes you bigger, better than your competitors. And then also, I don't want to say you have to promo and discount yourself, but enticing people with a first time offer. Try us one time and you get 50% off. I don't know, maybe not 50. That's a little high. That's a little high. But, when there is less of a risk for the customer, they're more likely to try as well. And then you build that fan and they're like, well, my first time I got 20% off, but I'll come back and pay 100% because this was worth it. But they needed just that little give that makes it not so scary. So there's a couple different things that you can do, but education, differentiators, and then, maybe a little give for a little get.
Now, I know there's people that are interested in starting a business. They want something that'll do well without them having to necessarily go out and do all the marketing themselves. If somebody wants to go about purchasing a franchise and become a franchisee, how would they take the first steps to do that?
Well, first, I think you need to do your research. Not every business franchises, but if you are interested in franchising, I would recommend starting with an industry or a business model that you're comfortable with. So if you have no experience in the restaurant industry, I might stay away from doing a restaurant franchise. But first, doing the research, and most companies have franchising opportunities or the requirements on their website. I know that my company does not. It is very select, but most companies do. And they'll tell you the legal requirements because a lot of businesses won't allow you to operate other businesses that are in the same industry. So you can't own a pizza place and a burger place, or you can't own two different burger places because that's technically competition. So doing that research, the research should also include how much money does it cost? What support do you receive from the larger brand? Some are all in and they will put all hands on deck to help you, and others are more independent. They are letting you use the name, but you're responsible for everything else. So those are the questions I think you need to ask in doing your research. And then, what is the risk? I think is probably the other big question to look at when you're researching. If it fails, am I out all the money, or do I have to put all of the money down? Do they help with anything? Looking at those kind of safety nets, so to speak, would be very important. But just doing your research is like the first step, and then obviously the long list of questions comes after. But
you did kind of touch on another question already, but what are some of the financial obligations that the franchisee may not be aware of before they get into it?
So franchising, you have to obviously have the money to buy the franchise and buy the rights and the space of whatever it is that you're doing. So if it is $1 million, most of them will require you to have a certain insurance or safety net. So if it costs $1 million, they require you to have 5, because you have to be able to fund the business 5 times over to start it. Mm-hmm. So that insurance cost or the safety net is something I think a lot of people might not remember to account for. Especially if you're paying for a building, if you're having to, get a new location built, they're definitely going to require you to have that safety net of having the funds so many times over. Whether it's 3 times over or 5 times over, who knows, but a lot for that. The cost of doing business. Most franchisees may not know that you pay in every time you make a sale. So you might make $100,000, but you got to give 3% of that back to the larger brand. So your income's not maybe looking as nice as you might think it is. And especially right off the bat, it's definitely not going to make money right from the start. You probably need a solid year. Once you've been in business a solid year before you're going to see true green income, because you're paying back everything and making the money back that you made, or that you spent rather, to get it all set up. So I think that's another thing you got to kind of pay attention to. It's not just easy income because you have a bigger brand behind you. It's still work, and it's still money coming out of your pocket, and it's continuously going to be money coming out of your pocket. And different franchisees have different requirements of what money goes in as well. So some may require you to pay a marketing fee. Some may require you to pay technology fees. Those are different things to look at when you're going into the franchising opportunity, of what money do you have to kind of come out of pocket for, what is covered by them.
Mm-hmm. So with a lot of these companies, clearly there's a lot of, expenses that they may not have thought about before. So they're definitely going to be working on gearing up their marketing so that they can try to get more sales. And you said a lot of them have their own marketing people that they work with, not just for locally, not just with the national brands marketing team. what are some things outside of working with like the national brand and national marketing that they are provided that a lot of franchisee owners can do or usually do to like set themselves apart?
I don't know if it's setting themselves apart because, again, when you are a franchise, you want to align with the national brand. But if it's setting yourself apart from competition, a lot, well, I won't say a lot, but I'm sure plenty of businesses that have franchising offer a sort of toolkit where you have access to different materials, whether it be print, whether it be digital, that you can provide to partners that you're meeting. So if you're going out and, shaking hands with the local business owner, I can hand you pre-made business cards. I can easily print off flyers, or I can email it to you. Now in this day and age, I can email you anything. Looking at that toolkit of what is it that we already have available to go out and give to others when we're doing those local efforts. And a lot of setting yourself apart from competition is the fact that you are going and meeting your customer where they're at. So I think that's really important.
Okay. And I ask that because we've had experience with working with a franchisee and trying to establish basically, a local market to help them bring in more opportunities. And working with, the national company and having to figure out, like, not necessarily the guidelines, but, like, how we can get them the most reach and the most leads without overstepping the original brand or the original company. So that's why I asked that question. And that's been an interesting process, learning, like, with what they can and cannot do with their parent company.
Oh, absolutely. I tell people, when people ask me what I do, I say most of my day sometimes is answering questions. And it's a lot of, can we do this? Can I do that? And depending on the franchise group, they have some that have one person and they're doing it all. They're wearing every hat. And so their marketing efforts may not be much outside of what the national brand is doing, and that's okay. They are able to thrive and still make, sales and do what needs to be done off of that national brand recognition. And there are others that are out here, creating their own marketing materials for this event that we came up with. We want to partner with this school, and we're going to do this random game and offer prizes, and this is how we're getting people. And in exchange, they're putting our name on a banner and on their website, and they just have to make sure, are you following those brand guidelines? Again, I feel like I'm a broken record. Just, are you following the brand guidelines? But I applaud the creativity and the initiative to get out there. And of course, if they don't have the know-how of, okay, well, this is what I want to do, but I don't know how to do it. Okay, come to me. Well, we can run a social ad. We can get you flyers. We have, direct mail that can go mail to households. What is best going to accomplish your goal? So I get where you're coming from. Can we do this? Yeah, yes, you can do this, but here I'm going to provide this to you, and here's the tool, and I want you to use the tool as is. Please don't edit it. Please don't change. Please don't use it for its not intended purpose. Like those things, like a toy when it says, please do not use for its not intended purpose because you may break it. Well, you might break your business. Not. you might come across the wrong light if you use it inappropriately or in the wrong way. Just stay in the guidelines.
And by break the business, do you mean like break contracts?
Oh, yeah, you can do that. I mean, we can get into that conversation too. That would be a cost you definitely want to maybe think about when you're going into franchising. is, do I need to have a backup safety net for if I break a rule? Now, again, that will depend on your overall, national brand and how they handle those situations. Some may just give you a little pat on the hand, like they, and say, please don't do this again. This is a warning. Some of you get the side eye. This is your first warning. Your second warning may not be so nice. And then your third warning is, we're going to not allow you to be a franchise anymore.
Which would be very sad.
Yeah. And then that
After
also,
you put all that money into it.
listen, and that comes with legal fees. That comes with, money you probably have to pay. But again, it depends on your franchise and your parent company and how they handle those situations. Some are going to be more lenient than others. And of course, it also depends on what you did to be in the doghouse, so to speak.
Yeah, like which rule did you break?
Right. Did you do this on accident?
Or
Did you do it on purpose?
Yeah.
Was it like a situation where you did it and were planning to ask for forgiveness later?
And then again, also, how easily can this issue be repaired? Did it create a bunch of bad press? Did only we notice? And I will say that's also part of my job, is kind of being the bad guy. I spend a lot of time in market visiting franchise locations. And so sometimes my job is to go in and to make sure that you're following these guidelines. And if I catch you, it's just a side eye. It's a, please fix it before I have to go tell somebody else. Because if I have to tell my boss and then she has to tell her boss, that's when you run into the problem. So again, how easily can it be fixed? And how much of a damage did you do, I think goes into play. If it's not much, if it's me coming to check on you, you're probably all right.
Now I'm kind of wondering about situations that weren't necessarily caused by the franchisee, but like an outside, source. Because I'm thinking when I was in high school, our rival high school, or our high school played our rival high school in football, and we won. And it turned into a food fight at a franchise. And there was a lot of press around it. So I'm trying to kind of wonder, how do you mitigate press from stuff like that?
I don't know if there's a way to mitigate it. It is having the right response and having a timely response. I think for us, if that were to happen, for the brand I work for, it is it's just about kind of telling your story. We allowed the kids to come in. It was a great celebration, and unfortunately things got out of hand. Making sure that you have a good PR team. And if you are the PR team, because again, we know small businesses, you are the PR team, you are wearing every hat, it's not saying more than you have to. You don't want to blame anybody. I think that's important, because then it makes you look guilty. So again, it's just telling the story of what happened. And if there needs to be some sort of apology, it's unfortunate. Not we apologize necessarily. It's unfortunate that this has happened, but it was done in good faith. It's going back to what was the intention and kind of steering people away from the negative that has occurred into, but this is the good we wanted. This is what we wanted to happen. But we can't control people. But we went into it with good intentions, and we're still good. We didn't, we're still the same beloved brand you love. And we want you to come see us. And we can't wait to have you back.
I think to that question as well, we talked about that a little bit in the podcast with Leslie when we talked about PR and like, so yes, also with your brand guidelines and like you have set up all of the things for your business, you should also have like a crisis management system in place.
Yes.
Like if something was to happen,
Yeah.
how do we, steer this in the right direction? Especially because the parent company isn't going to necessarily provide that for franchisees, correct? It just depends on how big
It depends on
how
the
big it gets.
parent company, yes. So when you work for a larger brand, the larger brand has a PR team, ideally.
Yeah.
I assume if they're that large, they have their own PR team. And no matter whether it is a franchise location or if it is the home location, that is ran by the owner, it's all one brand and it's all seen as one entity. Because again, we want you to stay in line so the customer, the guest coming in has no clue that there's a difference. And they shouldn't. Ideally, they shouldn't know. And so when one messes up, it affects it all. Like there's a saying, you don't sin in a vacuum. Like what you do affects everything else around you and it kind of bleeds out. That's essentially how we handle PR. So a larger brand, yes, they will handle your mess up and your mistake. They will go in and craft that story for you. They will go in and have those responses ready for you. Now, I know for my company, we require PR training. And it's essentially crisis management training. So if this happens, you know how to at least steer people away from the mess and the nonsense. You may not have the perfect answer, but you at least know how to guide them away from the problem, like getting them away from the fire. And usually that just is, please contact our PR team. And it can be that simple if you really need it to be. Please, no comment, but please contact our PR team. Or we are very, sad about what happened, or it's unfortunate. For further comment, please contact our PR team. Keep it simple. I stand by that. Please keep it simple. Because I feel like when you don't, you go into like a rant and you go down the rabbit hole, and you could end up saying something accidentally. And it's just better have a practiced response. It's unfortunate. We had the best of intentions. Please contact PR.
Or better yet, the only spokesperson for this brand is the president of the brand.
Listen.
Like, only the president can speak on that.
Yeah, and you can always say, I don't have enough knowledge of that. I don't have enough knowledge to give you an answer. Because think about it, if you are the franchisee of this location and you weren't there, you don't have enough evidence or knowledge of what happened. Even, they'll be like, well, this is your location. This is, if they do know you're a franchise and they know that this is your location, well, you should know. Well, I was at home. What you want me? You can't say that. You can't say, well, what am I supposed to say? You just give them the canned response of, it's unfortunate. We're taking steps to, correct the incident and matter. And for further questions, comments, contact the PR team. Yes. And that way you're also not getting in trouble with the parent company.
Just point them in their direction.
Yep.
They're the official spokesperson.
And you can tell the parent company what happened. You can tell them 100% be honest. So they know, what happened. And the PR team does what they're supposed to do. That's what they're there for.
And I'm sure the parent company also has like monitoring systems in place for like social media and the web. So they're able to see some of these things as they're coming out. So they're able to step in front of it even sometimes before a franchise owner will see it online.
Absolutely. If something happens in the middle of the night, there are alerts. Then our teams are getting emails and phone calls, whatever time of day. and they're able to get in front of it. And the PR team might still give the response, no comment, or something very simple to start off that conversation. And then as they get more information, they can go in with a little bit more crafted answer to help the franchise.
So, since you guys obviously do monitor some of like online goings, I know the parent company has their own website which they monitor, and obviously they're doing, search engine optimization for the website. What about individual franchisee owners and like the individual locations?
So part of my job and what my brand does is we do not allow franchisees to have websites. They do not have social media. Everything is channeled through the corporate brand page and the corporate website. And that just ensures brand safety. That way you know that nothing is being said that you have not already approved. And rules and guidelines are being followed. Of course, if we do a social ad, we can do social posts for different geographic areas. And it might not be, if you're in Florida, it may not pertain to you if you're in New Mexico. But it's pretty clear that it's geared towards Florida when we do it. But we try not to single out any specific location. If we're going to do something on social or in online space, it needs to be a more general message. Of course, it depends on the platform. So everybody's familiar with Instagram. Instagram has stories. Those stories are like highlights. They're a highlight reel. And we will put guests up there if they tag us online. We'll put a location up there. Like, I'm at a location in Georgia, and I'm seeing this really cool thing. I have to show you. And they take a picture of whatever's going on, and they tag us. You may not always get the repost or what have you, but we can put it to the story. It's a highlight reel. It's not a message that we're sharing. It's the love that we're sharing. If the franchise is allowed to have a website, I'm going to assume that the parent company has guidelines of how that website has to be set up, what it can and cannot say. And you do get into some stickier situations of what can be said, and it's their business technically, but it's your brand, and that's a gray area in a lot of spaces.
Yeah, because I've definitely seen where certain businesses not necessarily have their own website, but they'll have their own Google business profile between the different locations. And I know there's a million different locations. So I kind of always think about who's managing all of these, or is each business owner managing that?
So in my case, we have franchisees that do have their own website. And that is primarily for the fact that they are responsible for their own hiring and their own HR, because they are their own business. So they have to operate as such. And what their website will usually say is ABC Company, a franchisee of XYZ Company. And that way it's not stating that they are the brand itself, but they are doing business representing this parent company. And they're able then to now, in this day and age, of course, you want hiring online. I want to go online and fill out a job application. I don't want to have to go drive to the location to get a paper application, write it all out, and it possibly get lost. So a lot of their HR, their hiring, and if they have, fun things that they're doing at their corporate office, their parent, or their brand's company, they can highlight that on their page as well. but it's their responsibility to run it. We will go in and, again, kind of police it. You have to check, make sure that they're staying in the guidelines. But once it's set up, and I will go back and say, this policing is generally done before the page is finished. It has to receive approval to even be put up. Mm-hmm. But once it's up, most people don't go back and change it. They're not going to go and like color outside the lines. That gets them in trouble. But it is the franchisee who's responsible for running it and operating it in good faith.
Okay. Now, another question that just popped up in my head. Are hours of operation part of brand guidelines?
Yep. When you have a well-known brand, yes. We all know a certain brand is closed on Sundays. That is brand guidelines. That is brand culture. That is what your customer expects. So if you are open on Sunday and everybody else is closed, are you really who you say you are? And again, that creates that question and almost a doubt, and of course confusion that you don't want, because your customer comes back to you and keeps coming back to you because they trust you. They know what to expect. They know what they're going to get. And so when you're going against that, you're probably just creating a problem. You're not making extra money. You're going to create problems. So hours of operation, it is a guideline. Of course, there are exceptions. And those would have to be defined by the parent company. You know, if this town goes to sleep at 9 p.m. and everything goes dark, maybe it doesn't make sense for you to be 24 hours a day. Maybe you can close at 10 p.m. or midnight. Or maybe we can do, in a not so safe area, maybe your lobby isn't open. Maybe you just have drive-through. So different exceptions can be made as long as the majority follow the guidelines. But that, I would say your hours of operation are a guideline overall.
I was going to say, definitely a part of your branding, especially if you look at like the company that rhymes with Schmufflesmouse.
I wonder who that is.
They're infamous for always, being open. They definitely, in like natural disasters and stuff, that's how some people gauge like how bad things are. If they're open, like that's a brand staple of theirs, is we gonna be open.
I was gonna say they're a weather index.
Yes,
absolutely. I think that's why the hours falls under your branding, because if you are like the Schmufflesmouse and we know that you're always open, if I come up and I'm in a new place and I see the lights, I know this place, this is something familiar, this is a piece of home that I can go to and get that comfort, but then I walk up and you're not open, you may have lost a customer. And not just at that location, you may have lost a customer wherever they go now. So you have to think that, yes, this is your business as a franchise. This is your decisions you want to make to an extent. But it's so much bigger than you. It's so much bigger than you. You affect everybody else who has a franchise, who has, everybody at the parent company, because that one customer. And especially in this day and age when social media and reviews are easily at our fingertips. Somebody could post a video in Georgia and somebody in Colorado sees it. Well, there goes that one. And it's so important. You can't, of course, make everybody happy, but you have to do your best. Because one person can really mess it up. You don't know who you might mess with and make mad, or And of course, I think everybody has to take those with a grain of salt. Like, it's been proven that, most reviews are either one end of the spectrum or the other. You either make them extremely happy and they're going to leave you that 10-star review, or you really just like irritated their soul and they're going like -5. It's not somebody who's like, yeah, it was okay. 5, like right in the middle. No, you're not going to get that review. You're going to get it was the best thing I've ever had and I've ever done, or it was the worst. And if you're, a growing brand, you don't want somebody to read a review from Georgia, but they're in Colorado. And they're like, well, no, I'm not going to try it. I'm not going to try it.
Yeah.
So you got to be careful.
How do you all, how do you, mitigate that, like the reviews, especially now that it's gone more national? So not necessarily like in Texas and down south, we're getting into areas like Chicago, Georgia. Do you all monitor like the reviews from those areas? So and be like, ooh.
We do. We monitor every single review. Every review left is somebody sees it. Somebody in the home office, corporate office, sees that review. Now, and I will say there's parameters and guidelines of whether it warrants a response. If somebody's like, oh, it just did not taste good. Unfortunately, taste is subjective. That's your opinion. But if it is a true problem, and if it's a franchise location, we will go tell the franchise, hey, it seems like based on where this review was left that they were at this location, and this is the review. There was a hair in the food. There was a problem that is truly fixable. We will tell them, and then we will also respond. And again, the level of the problem kind of warrants the level of response, whether it's just a response to the review or if it's an individual reaching out to that person and talking to them. They get a phone call. If you get a phone call, you must have really had something happen. But we do have people who monitor them and keep an eye on them so that we can go after those problems.
Do you have any other like big brand tips that small business owners would be able to utilize? Like things that you've learned over the years, because obviously you have lots of years of experience in marketing, and that even stuff that you've gained from working with a bigger brand that, a small brand that's just starting out, they could use.
Yeah, absolutely. I think number one is be okay in the pivot. It's okay to try something out. And if it's not working, it's okay to turn and go the other direction and to let it go. You don't have to say, well, it was a complete loss. Take what you learned and try something new. And also don't be afraid to kind of like test things. I know that's easier said than done in certain industries, but get feedback. If you have customers that are coming in as a regular, even in your small business now, and you have a new idea of something you want to do, ask them their opinion. Get their feedback. If it's something you can make it and have them try it. Make it and give it to them. And say, I'd love some feedback on this. And truly listen to that and be okay with pivoting away from what your original idea was. Working at a bigger brand, we do market tests and we try things out for months. And we take it to different people and to different places. And at a smaller brand, you don't have to do that much. But go to a few people that you trust, regular customers, if you have a mentor, and talk things over. Don't let it live in your head and just go with your idea because you think it's great. Try it out. It may not land as you think it will. And then pivot.
Is there one thing that you would leave with small businesses as far as like brand strategy goes?
Keep it simple. I think that's so forgotten. We want to do the bigger and the better thing, and I see it in my job. People want the newest and the greatest, but sometimes going back to the basics and keeping it simple will give you the best results. So instead of, buying a billboard, just go talk to people first. Like, go walk in a business and shake their hand. Because sometimes those smaller actions will pay off better because it's about building their relationships. So keep it simple. Don't overthink it.
Great advice.
Yes, absolutely. All right. Yeah, that basically wraps up our episode.
This was fun.
It was
Thank
fun.
you so much. Well, before we go, tell the people where they can find you.
Yeah, absolutely. So for somebody who's in branding, I am not on social media a lot. That sounds so terrible to say, but you can find me, and I am responsive on all platforms at Miss Gabrielle Ann, and Miss is MS. MSGABRIELLEANN.
Great. No, that's very much the age-old story. We work in marketing, we work in branding, and we're not active on our own social media.
Listen, I had a period where I was posting on Instagram every day. And then I took a hiatus and I was like, this is kind of nice. I like this. And then I was like, okay, I'm going to post once a month and give like a recap of what I was doing. Because I feel like in my business, I'm able to find and source out the people that I want to work with. Mm-hmm. And they find me, and it's a lot of word of mouth. And I like that. I like that relationship because it means I have a really good relationship with the people that I'm interacting with and working with. But anyways, I went to posting once a month. This year we are going to post once a quarter is the goal. So, catch me next week.
Understandable. Well, this has been While Supplies Last, the marketing podcast. We are once again with Peachtree Rose Marketing. So if you want to find us, reach out for a consultation. We're at peachtreerosemarketing.com. You can also find us on LinkedIn, Instagram, and Facebook at Peachtree Rose Marketing.
Right. And you can catch more episodes of While Supplies Last on YouTube and Spotify.
Yes. All right. Thank you, guys.
Bye. Bye.